Dima Mixon here live from Hancock Whitney Stadium in Mobile, Alabama. The last time I stood on this field, a lot different result than tonight. We're actually not standing on the field. The PA system had the radio playing with nobody.
Still has the radio playing. Still. We're going to get copyrighted.
Yeah, so that's why we're over here against this brick wall that you take up to the press box. Here joined by Zion Cochran. Zion, your first ever instant reaction. Not a good one for you, I'm sorry. Jackson Kennedy, as always, and I'm Dima Mixon. Here on your instant reactions after Southern Miss falls 55-3 to South Alabama, the worst conference loss in school history. They were outgained 647 yards to 149. South Alabama had 360 yards to 46 yards for Southern Miss. 287 rushing yards for South Alabama, 103 rushing yards for Southern Miss. Southern Miss had only 12 first downs. South Alabama had 34. And South Alabama averaged 8.5 yards per play, and Southern Miss averaged 2.5. Zion, thoughts?
Well, I want to start off by saying this is my first experience at a college game, covering it as an analyst, as a reporter. Thank you guys for the opportunity. I really enjoyed my experience with you guys, videoing in the press box. I really enjoyed it. But on to the game, it was disgusting, if I'm being quite honest, guys. just being honest, guys. 55-3. At one point in the game, I believe entering to halftime, the Golden Eagles had 4 penalties to 2 first down, guys.
Yeah. 25 yards on the penalties, 26 total yards of offense.
One little point that I'm just going to butt in real quick. I know that I'll say this. I just want to say this. Bryce Lofton at halftime had 211 yards punting. That is nearly 10 times the total yards of offense, which was 26 at halftime. I'm going to pass it back to you. Just chew on that for a little bit, fellas.
Yeah. Those are the stats, guys, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe of the 11 drives that South Alabama had, they scored on 8 of them, guys, which resulted in 55 points. And their first five drives of the game, they scored on. So it was touchdown, 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 field goal. And oh my gosh, if you're a Golden Eagle fan, what is the mindset going into next week? What is the mindset waking up tomorrow? Oh my gosh, I don't want to sound like I'm just poo-pooing the team, but I have to say there's no hope. I don't see any. There's no hope right now. I'm being honest, guys. I'm not even joking. Not even trying to just trying to talk or just run my mouth. It looks hopeless right now. I was on the sideline. I was going from sideline to sideline, and while the offensive line were taking breaks and whatnot, they looked lifeless out there, guys. And then when the D-line came out there, they looked lifeless. And I believe there was one point I seen Jay Stanley. He wasn't playing today, but I promise, his head was down the entire first half of the game. He's trying to cheer up his teammates, but all the second, I seen a couple of the secondary guys. I forget their names, but they're literally one knee on the ground. They're looking down. It's like their dog got run over this morning or something like that. So serious. It was ugly out there, guys, and I'm not really sure what did the coaches say. What is the attitude of the players? You just lost 55-3, 6 straight losses. I'm not sure what is the mindset. I don't know. Can you be mad? Can you be sad? Was this expected? I don't know.
Southern Miss had a week and a half to prepare to come here and turn this season around. Jackson, it didn't even feel like they deserved to be on this field. It looked like the stats, let me say this, the stats were better in the first half against Florida State than they were against South Alabama tonight. Southern Miss, I think, had 110-something yards against Florida State, 26 in the first half tonight. I think tonight, while, yes, Swayze Bozeman in the postgame press conference said, blame us, not Coach Hall, tonight showed there is significant change that needs to be happening in this program. It cannot continue like this. No matter how you want to paint it, no matter how you want to, maybe look at this, maybe look at that, this can't continue. This is the worst conference loss in program history. The worst program loss in conference in program history in the 100 and whatever years Southern Miss has been in football. This is the worst one. In year 3 of a head coach who was bringing back a bowling roster. So an incredible feat to come in here tonight and really not compete in any facet. There was never a point in this game where they even looked like they belonged on the field tonight, Jackson. Do you think coming into this game that this team had already quit? Or if not now, do you think they will?
You may have seen me laughing, and it's not because I take delight in any of this. It was more of just because I was like, dang Zion, coming out with some heaters. But I don't know. I don't know. And the thing is, I don't know if the coaches know. I don't know if the players know. I don't know if anyone knows. Sam Sklar was asking Coach Hall and Holman Edwards, like, hey, do you think this is rock bottom? And my answer is, dear God, I hope so. Because if it gets any lower than this, I don't know. I don't know what Southern Miss could do to bounce back. I mean, obviously, yes, there was the Ellis Johnson 0-12 season, but this feels worse. Like, it feels emotionally worse because of the sheer fact of, like, you have Will Hall, who was hired because of his offensive prowess, his offensive mastermind, and this year everyone was like, hey, we are finally going to get to see the offense in which Coach Hall was hired to run. And they have a fantastic team returning. I've been saying it all year, and I still believe it. This is the most talented roster in the past 7 years, only rivaled whenever Nick Mullins and Ito Smith were on the field at the same time. You know, like that. This is such a talented roster, and they're capable of so many things. But nothing has gone right. Nothing has gone right. Whenever the play call is fantastic, like, okay, I'm going to inject a little bit of my personal feelings right here. Whenever they elected to punt on 4th and 1, I was like, you have got to be freaking kidding me. You're really going to give up in the first quarter? And then Frank Gore Jr. runs for what, like 3-4 yards? That was awesome. That was so cool to watch. It's like, hey, there's that offensive shenaniganery. There's that fun stuff that's happening. And then gets called back. Illegal formation, was it? How do you do that? How do you do that? And then it's just, this team is so talented, and these players deserve so much, and these coaches were so well touted. I don't know what the problem is. This is the third time this season that someone has scored 50 or more points on Southern Miss. This is the third time this season that Southern Miss has yet to score an offensive touchdown. This is the second time in a row. This is the second game in a row that Southern Miss has yet to score an offensive touchdown. Like, I am trying not to sound like a sailor on here because Dima and Zion know exactly what I'm going to be sounding like in the car, and I am sparing you from that. But it's like, how do you do that? How do you do that? Because it's like, this team is capable of so much, and they have achieved so little. And I hurt for the players. I hurt for the coaches. I hurt for the fans who had such high anticipations for this year. I hurt for the band. I hurt for the Dixie Darlings and the cheerleaders who's, for the seniors this year, like me. So if you are my age, if you are my grade, and you are in the band, or you are in cheer, or you're in the Dixie Darlings, or you're on this football team, and this is your last year, your first year, your freshman year, was just marred by COVID. The band played in the rafters. They didn't even get to go on the field for halftime. And they were socially distanced as a band. They took up almost a quarter, if not a third, of the stands. And they had a terrible first and second year. They finally get to go to a bowl game. Their senior year, they may finish 1-11. I don't know what the problem is, and I don't know if I would blame these players for giving up.
I would, and I hesitate to say that, but you can't tell me that they were prepared to play this game tonight. You can't look me in the face and literally say that this team had the talent to beat South Alabama. Not a chance. There was never a point in this game tonight where they competed. They had 9 total yards through the first 4 drives. That's not a talented team. That's a really, really bad football team. So it's either on coaching or it's on the players. In my view, it's a little bit on both.
I want to say, I don't want to keep poo-pooing the team, but it looked like an ACC school going against maybe a junior college or some type of prep school. Just being completely honest with you guys.
But I don't want to cut you off. That's what happened when they played Florida State. It was ACC versus Sun Belt. This was still a worse loss.
Yeah, with the Sun Belt Division opponent. Last year, the game was within one possession, 27-20 in South Alabama's favor. Yet this year, It was horrible. And I do want to say something real fast, something on the positive side. I was on the USM sideline, and I saw the South Alabama student section where they were eating up the players of the USM bench. And I want to say the players, they held their composure really well. They didn't act out of line. They kept their composure, which shows a lot of discipline. I do want to throw that out there real fast. I'm not sure if you guys saw or heard what was going on, but those South Alabama fans, they were throwing some haymakers at them, but they kept their composure, and they did a really good job of holding their own out there.
Yeah, so I think it comes back down to when I think the season changed when Frank Gore Jr. overthrew the tight end against Tulane. I think the season changed. If they score on that play, it's 7-7. I don't know if they win, but it's definitely a more competitive game. When they lost to Tulane, the fan base started, hitting the panic button. They come back the next week, and I remember tweeting out against Arkansas State. I said, "What is your feeling of this game?" And it was like optimistic, nervous, or I don't know what to think. And I don't know what to think won, which proved to be right. They went down the road and lost to Arkansas State, a team where was the worst college football team in the country at that point when they did play. That was before Zion's Lamar Jackson threw all over them. But then they come home. They give up the most points in a half since them playing Alabama. They come back against the third string of Texas State to mount what would have been an incredible, historic comeback. Then you play last week against Old Dominion offense, who is horrendous, and they still came into the Rock and beat you on homecoming. You come to South Alabama in a rivalry game and suffer your worst loss in conference history. In your 110, I'll tell you what, rant really quickly. People do not know. People are like screaming, and the radio is playing. Media combinations here, not good for post-game videos and live TV shots. Media box, press box, and on-field access, terrific. This makes me kind of frustrated. But anyways, you come here and you lose in a rivalry game. You don't even compete in a rivalry game. I know of, and I hate to bring up these two teams on a Southern Miss show, but Ole Miss and Mississippi State, when they play in the Egg Bowl, they could both be 2-10. 2-9 playing that game, and it's always competitive. It's never a 55-3 game. That's never. I don't even remember the biggest Egg Bowl margin. It's probably a large margin, but definitely
it's rare.
But it's rare. It's rare. And this year, you're playing a team who this is a big game. You got people who you're trying to pull recruits from South Alabama. You're trying to pull. This is a big contest just for the school, and you come in here and you don't even show up. You don't even get off the bus. I mean, really, Zion, they shouldn't even gotten off the bus tonight. And we're giggling, but that's the truth. They didn't get off the bus tonight. They didn't even look like they wanted to play. They didn't even look like. I was noticing on the field, and I told Jackson on the field, I have a bad feeling because I just felt something like it doesn't even feel like they want to be here. They were kind of just like moseying around through warm-ups, and it was like the energy is gone, and I feel like I don't know if they can salvage the locker room, and I know that Swayze and Will and all them said that's not a problem, but I don't know how you salvage the locker room at this point.
I don't know either. I don't know either. And my biggest fear is that a lot of these people that have been monumental to Southern Miss, like, for example, Frank Gore Jr., a guy that has put this entire program on his back his entire tenure here. Someone who, the first chance that I get to interview Frank Gore Jr., I'm going to ask him, and it's going to be funny, but I'm going to be serious, like, hey, where do you want your statue placed on campus? Leading this team somewhere that really, really deserves like leading this team to a place in which they deserve to be, but the rest of the team can't beat it. He put their team on his back, right. And now he's just been wildly disappointed by them. It's like, what's keeping him there? Yeah. And I don't want to be overly prescriptive. I don't want to be like the other fans that are saying like, oh hey, he should transfer. But it's like, why should he do that? What's keeping him here? He's the most talented one on the team. He's barely being utilized, and it's just upsetting. And I feel like fans may have fans remember this, but I don't know if the players and the coaches realize this. This is Southern Miss. This is a team in which ended Bear Bryant's home win streak, 54 games.
I want to comment on this. If Southern Miss were to fire Will Hall, Southern Miss should go hire a coach who doesn't know a single thing about Southern Miss football, because in the history of this program, that is the thing that's worked. Coach Fedora didn't know a single thing about Southern Miss when he came here. Absolutely nothing. Southern Miss needs to stop living in the days of 1980, 1990, 2000. Those days are over. The shift in college football since then is completely over. That was great in Southern Miss's history. Terrific. Some of the best football in Southern Miss that you'll ever have. But if you want this program to be back at a place where it's competing for Sun Belt championships and it's competing for certain aspects of college football playoff berths, if that's a possibility, obviously tonight, no chance at a college football playoff with that team that you place on the field. But you got to get a fresh, renewed sense into this program. It can't be in the past. It can't be what you did in the past. It's not about building this program back to what it used to be in the 1980s. It's not possible to do that. You have to build this program back in a new sense. Fedora came in here not knowing practically anything about Southern Miss, and he came in here and sent this team to their best season in 40 years when they beat Houston, the number 16 ranked team in the country, down in Houston for the Conference USA title. And you know what? They brought in a few other coaches who had some ties to Southern Miss, and Will Hall, who has ties to Mississippi and knows the history of Southern Miss. You know, I'm not saying that's the specific reason why he's not been able to win here, but I think that you bring in a coach who has no experience here, who doesn't know this program, and comes here with a renewed sense of mind and says, I'm going to build this back the way I want to build it back and not the way the fans want to build it back. So I'm sorry to cut you off, Jackson, but I think that, yes, they beat Bear Bryant. Yeah, sure. You know what they didn't do tonight? They didn't come in here and compete. And that's what matters to the fans. And Southern Miss fans need to stop living in 1980 and 1990 and 1970, because that is not the reality you live in anymore. You live in a reality where your team is coming here as 18-point underdogs to a rivalry team and getting beat by 53 on the road. That's your reality. You have to figure out a way to fix it, and that starts with academics, and that starts with coaching.
Yep. And also, I want to say real fast, I was telling Jackson Nima this earlier. I want to congratulate Will Hall and Dan O'Brien for sending 3 guys to the NFL, guys. Jalen Rayner, third-string quarterback for Arkansas State, 5 touchdowns. First collegiate start, 5 touchdowns. He looked amazing. He looked like Lamar Jackson out there. Ishmael Miata of Texas State, 4 rushing touchdowns. I believe he had over 6 yards to carry, guys. And then tonight, LaDamian Webb for South Alabama, 4 touchdowns, guys. 20 carries for 104 yards. So congratulations to Will Hall and Dan O'Brien. You sent 3 kids to the NFL.
Well, that's pretty harsh.
Yeah, and to bounce back to Dima's point, I'm not trying to live in the past days, but it's like the point I was trying to make. It's like it seems like people don't have pride in the program, and whether you want to
but the pride in the program isn't going to be fixed by remembering back to the 1980s.
Exactly.
Coming here and beating South Alabama, not getting beat by 50.
Exactly, and so what I'm saying is, you can either have pride by trying to be like the past, or by forging a completely new future, which is I think they should go in a new direction. They shouldn't live in the shadow of the past, but they should remember to hey, this program is they used to be known as that, and they can be known as that again, and they have the tradition and the fan base to do so. But it's just you're not going to get anywhere close to there by losing 55-3. You're not going to get anywhere close to that.
You're also not going to get anywhere close to there when you live in the past and you say, when you're going to Florida State and you're saying, oh, we can win that game. No, you're not going to be able to win that game. Focus on ways that you can improve as a team, not going in there to try to win that game. But let's not get our whole secondary hurt. That as a coach, let's not get our whole secondary hurt against Florida State. Obviously, you want to go in there and not just, as Dan O'Brien said, put your tail between your legs. But you need to go in there with the mindset of, okay, we're probably not going to win, but let's compete. And if we don't compete well enough, that's okay. But how are you going to fix that? And I feel like that's the problem with this team this season is they first off, their entire defense is hurt. Their whole secondary is gone. I mean, they had Antavius Willis back there playing secondary. So Southern Miss fans are living in a sense of reality of we can still beat Alabama. And that's not the reality you live in anymore. Your reality as a Southern Miss fan now should be you need to figure out a way to freaking beat South Alabama, who you haven't beaten in your history, and you're coming here tonight with a team who was within a single possession of them last year. Most of these players were on the team last year, and you come in here and get beat by 50. That's your reality that you're living in now.
Yeah, and it's not a pleasant one.
It's not a
pleasant. It's not a
pleasant. It's like happy. I'm saying that I'm trying to get the point across that this is where you live in now, and you've got to figure out a way to fix it. Whether that starts with Jeremy McClain and revamping this football program, whether that starts with Will Hall if he continues to be the coach here and revamps his entire staff, that's where the change needs to be made. It isn't going to be changed. This season isn't going to get any better. Like, it's not like they have easy opponents coming up. They're going on the road to play App State, who's probably the best team in the East. You think this was tough? Wait till you go to Boone next weekend. So, I mean, that's the reality. Figure out a way to keep your recruiting class, and they better fix something before this December recruiting class because they have one of the best recruiting classes in the Sun Belt, and I guarantee you some of them are dipping after tonight.
Yeah, and it's upsetting because it's like not only is this recruiting class incredible, the players on this team are incredible, and this entire season we've been like, oh, we don't know what the problem is. We don't know what the problem is, and I'm not going to call for jobs. I'm not going to be overly prescriptive. I'm not going to do any of that. This is the third time this season 50 or more points have been scored on you, 2 of which were conference games, 1 of which was a home game. And that home game, 42-0 at halftime. The only reason why they came close to coming back, and see, I thought on the field, I was like, oh, I was still seeing single-digit numbers. They're still playing their first string. No, they were playing third-string prevent defense. And that's the only reason why Southern Miss was able to come back. How can you go from last year having one of the best defenses in the Sun Belt, one of the better defenses in the nation, and then going to this with promoting from within, using the same schemes, using slightly different terminology, and upgrading at every position, retaining your front 7, only losing one of your front 7, getting a bunch of incredible transfers? How do you fall so far? How do you go from, running without a quarterback and still scoring, maybe 21 points a game or something like that, to this is the second time in like a month that Southern Miss has scored 3? It's like, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I don't want to be negative, but it's abysmal. It is abysmal.
I don't think it's negative. I think it's the truth.
Yeah. It is upsetting to see, and if you are a Southern Miss fan and you're watching this, we don't have the answers. We are just here to tell you what we saw and what we know that you saw, and so on behalf of us, we're sorry.
Yeah, I agree with everything Jackson just said, other than calling for jobs. I do think there is a time and place you have to call for some jobs. There is something that needs to be changed with the football team. And I'm not saying necessarily that's Will Hall, but something needs to change. And so maybe it is Will Hall. And, I'm not afraid to admit that. I'm not afraid of what fans think of me if I say maybe it is Will Hall that needs to maybe move on and try something new. I don't know. But maybe it's Dan O'Brien, or maybe it's Sam Gregg. Maybe you need to go hire a new offensive coordinator. But whatever you're putting on the field tonight is not working. So that starts by changing coaching. That starts by changing scheme. That starts by changing your mindset. And that's not what they did tonight. We need to go write stories and get ourselves out of the press box before they kick us out. That's our instant reaction. Southern Miss falls 55-3 tonight. Largest conference loss in program history. That's Zion Cochran. That's Jackson Kennedy. I'm Dima Mixon. We're here with you all season. Once again, whatever Southern Miss does this season, our coverage will always be the same. We're always going to try to give you top-notch coverage. We're never going to slack on coverage no matter what the score is. Thanks always for watching us here on the Southern Miss Student Media page. If you haven't given us a subscribe, please subscribe. It takes 2 seconds. All you got to do is click. It's a click, right, Zach? It's crazy. It's click. Yeah, it's crazy. Click. And then what you can also do, you can go to sm2media.com. It's a few clicks, and you can find the post-game story. You can also find us on 4th Street Sports Show, our podcast, which is on Apple Podcasts. You'll be able to look at his photos on the story as well, and Zion's beautiful package on Southern Miss TV. So once again, for Zion Cochran and Jackson Kennedy, I'm Dima Mixon. Thanks for watching our instant reaction. Southern Miss falls 55-3 tonight from Mobile. We'll see you back in Hattiesburg and for 4th Street Sports Show on Thursday. Thanks so much for watching.